A couple of years ago, I read this book called Astoria. I had never been up to that far-flung corner of the state where Astoria is, across the Columbia River that separates Oregon from Washington. The book fascinated me as it told the story of Oregon in the before times, the times before Europeans came and changed everything. They remade the natural landscape in their image of civilization and travel and development and agriculture. And so I figured out a time that was going to work for Joy and I to make the trip all the way up there to the wilds of Oregon's northwest coast. So Joy and I bought out the time, packed our bags, and headed on down to the airport. Only it wasn't so easy. So I'm sitting here in the lobby at this airport, waiting for my flight to go to Astoria. Except that no flights are ever going to come because this airport is disused. And the reason that this is disused is not even a topic of this video. In fact, this is supposed to be about back roads, so what I'm really going to do is drive. So why am I in the airport? Well, just because. And yes, those are F5s sitting out there. So let me back up a bit. This place, as we now know it, started with this guy, John Jacob Astor, who was born in 1763 in Waldorf, Germany, who was the son of a butcher. So he grows up in Germany, comes of age, and goes out into the world. After a stop in London for a while, where he had a brother, he learns English, and after a bit, he sets out for America on a ship, and that was in the winter of 1783. And after about 8 weeks of cold and misery, his ship reached the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay in January of 1784. But the ship became stuck in the ice, and it would be 2 months before it was safe for the passengers to land. Now, while doing absolutely nothing on this ship, waiting for the ice to break up, Astor meets this fellow German, who was also a passenger, who had traded furs with the Indians in North America on a previous trip. And so Astor learns all he can about the details of trading. And by the time he set foot on American soil, Astor had already made the decision to enter the fur business. Now, Astor could have gone to New York and become a butcher like his brother, opened up a shop, and done quite well. And it's very likely that his brother tried to convince him to go into the business of carving up animals to eat. But he was like, nah, I don't like that plan. And instead, he goes with plan 1 and goes up to Montreal and gets some furs, brings them back to New York, and returns to London to sell those furs. So John opens this small shop in Manhattan and does not open the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. That was John's son Jacob Astor that came up with that idea, and it's a whole other topic. Instead, John kept expanding his fur business, and he was soon exporting furs not only to London, but to China as well, and soon amassed a small fortune of about $250,000. After Lewis and Clark finished their expedition in 1806, he realized he could expand even further into the Louisiana Purchase. Astor's American Fur Company not only set up trading posts throughout the Midwest and Northwest at a time when beaver hats were considered the height of fashion in America and Europe. His company also purchased 10 tons of Ottoman-produced opium and shipped the contraband to Canton, China on the Pearl River. And this is where it gets interesting. So this sets him up with contacts in China, and he realizes that he can make this trade network work really well if he gets out ahead of the competition. These ships would carry American manufactured goods for trading with the Indians. He proposed to set out 1 or 2 ships a year from New York around Cape Horn to Oregon. The furs obtained in this exchange would not return to New York, though. He had other ships based at Astoria, and these ships would carry the furs to Canton, China, where they would be traded for Oriental goods. These in turn would be carried through the Indian Ocean to Europe. The goods would always be traded at a profit, and once in Europe, those goods, European goods, would then be brought across the Atlantic to the United States and sold at a profit so that he could buy more goods to send around the Horn back to Oregon and traded for more furs to be shipped to China again. This scheme had a great deal going for it, and the little settlement at the mouth of the Columbia in faraway Oregon was key to making it all work. His employees would bring all the furs down the river to Fort Astoria for shipment. It was the first permanent American settlement on the Pacific coast at the time, and for several years this was the linchpin of his trading empire. So we planned our trip to Seaside and Astoria in the middle of March. And it turned out to be a good time to visit because the whole Oregon coast is crowded with the hordes of humanity all summer long. And I can only imagine what Seaside is like in the summer, when half of Portland makes the hour-and-a-half pilgrimage directly to the coast on Highway 26.
I got it down, man.
So we actually stayed in Seaside and just drove around the area, which included Astoria. And while Astoria may not be the linchpin of a worldwide trading empire anymore, you could go there and think about the history and just enjoy it, especially in the off-season, which I do recommend that you do. So what I like about this car is that you can just basically go anywhere in it. This car just takes you places. It's a lot of fun. So I'll leave you with the rest and be back next time with another place.